We are live. Okay. Welcome, folks. Tonight we have Tim Morris and Braylon being my co-host. It is Morris, correct? I didn't screw that up, right?
That's correct, like the cat.
Okay. Okay, good. Because we're talking column, but first we were talking Transformers.
We talk other stuff too. It's all right.
Talk other stuff, but yeah, it's like it's funny you mentioned because column being about M1 Abrams crew and M1 Abrams thing. It's like the way I could describe it, it's like cutie chibi version of the movie Fury.
It's really funny because in 2013 when we started this, it was kind of like a completely original idea, and then literally, I think within about 6 months of having written the original treatment, Girls in Panzer came out, which is like an anime which is based around girls in World War II tanks. And then after that, then you've got like Fury and all this. Like it's been like one thing after another. And just because we've been so slow to the draw, it's like we came up with this idea. And now it feels like, oh, you're fitting right in because like everybody's doing this. It's like, well, not when we started.
And that's downside about like it's sometimes funding, sometimes speed. That stuff
happens.
It's like
funding, waiting for stuff to get done. It's been an absolute battle every inch of the way, and we're finally kind of getting to the end of it, and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, April 3rd.
That's it. Yep.
In the evening, probably like midday in the evening, early morning.
I think I'm probably gonna just start it. At least I thought. I'm open to a suggestion. I was gonna start it like midnight, April 3rd. Or like the night before midnight, you know what I mean?
Like 12:01 hits, boom, there you go.
Something like that, but I don't know if that's optimum strategy. They did tell us start on a Tuesday. That was something that was told from multiple sources, which I'm not 100% sure of the significance, but there you go.
I remember actually, Kickstarter, they didn't start till like 11 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, which I found really weird. It's like I've seen some start about lunchtime. I've seen like early afternoon. Most of them in the evening, like around 7 or 8. But I guess that's also because depending on time zones. If you're, East Coast, you do about 7 or 8. That's 4 o'clock Pacific. And then go across the country, so you can balance it out a little bit. Figure you hit it to where Pacific, because you're focused on a North American distribution mainly. Because I know some Kickstarters, they'll actually say North American, this is this much for North American shipping and this exorbitant amount for international. Because
it's that's something we've been trying to coordinate with the shipping, and I spent the end of last week and beginning of this week going to FedEx, UPS, and trying to see if I could get the international shipping cost to come down. And really, for individual items on the distribution level, you just can't do it unless you're Amazon, where you control your own distribution. It's pretty much $25 to get it international.
That's the problem. I know somebody that actually went into debt, multiple thousands of dollars in debt because of a successful enough Kickstarter. Did not consider the cost of shipping hardcovers. I think it was 200 page plus maybe 300 page Kickstarter hardcover.
And you exceed that 1 pound thing, and then you have to send it.
The worst part was cheap. It wasn't just the weight; it was also the size, like 9x12.
Oh no!
So it was and going to stuff like Uzbekistan and like other like random places, just random countries, and like the import, because it just adds up. But because it made me think the whole Transformers thing kind of tied into it, because you were talking tank, because Transformers and then Megatron turning into the gun, and then eventually they change it. They didn't want kids running around like playing with the toy gun, even though back in the 80s they had those. They looked like real Uzis, except they had their water guns.
Yeah, oh man, we've like nerfed toys so much.
And even they nerfed. They've nerfed Nerf to make them even look less realistic. Now they got the little. They used to have the Gatling gun, and then people spray painted those and did the little.
Oh really?
Yeah, those things like that. Didn't left it goofy enough, but like made the Gatling gun look, so you're just like the Nerf Gatling guns with a little the suction cup, which is kind of fun.
I've seen I used to love that stuff when I was a kid. I was never really allowed to have it, which is really sad, but like I would go to the store and like And then I saw recently they have one that's like it's basically a shotgun with shotgun shells. Like it's a working pump action shotgun that fires Nerf.
Oh god!
I was like, you're teaching kids like how to reload and everything. I mean, it's fine, but I just found it, like anything that had like any kind of action like that, which just fascinated me.
Yeah.
The toy lever guns, like the trigger doesn't reset until you hit the lever, and you're like, oh, that's so cool.
Rifleman.
Wow.
Like that.
It's crazy.
Well, it's like you're Texan, you're Texan, dude. You don't have to worry about that. I mean, it's like they just you're born and they give you a 357, and after you come out the birth canal,
Come on, man.
They give you a 357 and some grain alcohol. Like here's a man's drink, whether it be bourbon or whiskey or something.
You won't let that die, man. I bring a bourbon one time. You're like,
you know what though? Because I'm not a drinker, but I've never drank anything really like hard. Whether it be whiskey, bourbon, none of that.
Missing out.
I need to. I got to grow a mustache and drink some bourbon. That's what I got to do, man. I have to. Oh yeah, I didn't realize you had a mustache. It's like, be a man, Larry. Be a man. But like it's like that's the thing about like the younger days, like where. You didn't think about these things, the whole think of the children stuff started happening where getting away from playing war and shooting at each other with the toy guns.
That was definitely while I was in grade school. That was when the hammer came down. You couldn't play cops and robbers. You couldn't pretend to be, shooting at each other with lasers or whatever. I mean, we couldn't even pretend to play Pokemon because that was violence. It was just stand around and stare at each other and talk about feelings or something. Like I don't know what they wanted us to do.
That's funny you mentioned that because I remember when I was because I'm sure I'm older than both of you. I'm 33, so I'm pretty sure I'm older than both of you. I'm usually either the youngest person in the room or the oldest.
Yeah, that much
in between.
Yeah,
you would have been graduating high school while I was entering. So.
Oh my god! Well, that's still kind of old. That makes it still feel old. I didn't start till 1 year later, and I got held back a year. So really, I should have I was older than everybody else in school because my birthday's in November, so they started me late. And then I got held back.
And then any type of delay, now you're
exactly. So I was starting school, and I was just like. I didn't want to be here. First day of school was like first day of prison, man. It's like there's only 2 days of school you do, the first day and the last day. The first day had a guy, he messed himself. I had a guy steal my stuff. Got beat up on the first day. It was like prison. It was like
my God.
But I had to get my Darkwing Duck fanny pack, and I loaded it down with rocks because these guys were picking on me, and I loaded down rocks and used it like a mace, like a medieval mace, and was hitting people with it, like to tell them back off. I was clever. Most people would have just leave me alone. I was like, I knew the teachers weren't going to do nothing to help me, so I said, I'm gonna have to.
It's like a first death wish. The first thing he does is he gets a full of quarters. It's like,
hit you in the face
today,
nickels, bro.
I don't know. You're in grade school. Could have been like Pogs or something, right?
Well, it's funny. It's because I should have walked up to him and asked him, "Do you believe in Jesus?" Yes, I do. You're about to go meet him. But it was middle of nowhere, so like an hour to get there. But yeah, it's like did you come up? When you came up with this, was it a concept with Column? Was it a percolating idea from younger days, or piece by piece it kind of came together?
In terms of how I come up with ideas, I have notebooks, and I have actually a document that my business partner and me, we put together. And it's just kind of like, here's are all the stories in the pipe ready to be told. As for Column, what happened was I was working on, this is after I get out of college, and what I was trying to do was enter game design. And it's impossible because no one will help you and no one will teach you anything. And to find a project that doesn't collapse I found it to be impossible, at least. And I was working on a project where I was in charge of the story, and I was in charge of the concept, and there were some other things I was supposed to be working on. And I did, and I came up with this idea of what if it was a tank game, and it was like, what if we had representations in not only what country each tank is from. Like, you got a Challenger from Britain and a Abrams from the United States and a Leopard from Germany and so on. But not just that, but like, what if the crew had like a personality that was kind of an amalgam of the spirit of that country? So that whole thing basically collapsed. And I transferred that concept into a narrative, which was, what if we were telling a story and the main characters were basically first it was, in this case, we've got 4 American crew members, and they're kind of an amalgamation of the American spirit a lot. And that's pretty much where it came from. The narrative kind of fell afterwards. So there you go.
Well, that's actually kind of interesting. Like, I know a lot of people, one of my complaints about mostly games these days are a lot of people are failed. They want to be film directors, or they want to make movies, so they turn the games into like a interactive movie. It's like point and click.
Yes. Like, well, if you start at film, you fail at that, and then you end up somehow in game design. And if you start in game design, you fail at that, and I guess I don't know where you end up, but you usually end up in independent films. And if you write screenplays, which is funny, that's my background, you somehow end up in comics. And it's a stereotype, but there's a certain amount of truth to it. I think I came in knowing a little, or I should say, knowing I knew a lot less than what I think a lot of people think. Because when you're doing screenplay, you end up doing the storyboard, and you're like, oh, how hard could this be to translate? Because a comic's just a storyboard in color, right? And no, it's not. Nope. But it feels like you can do it, and it feels like, oh, you have all these relevant skills you apply, and then it helps, yes, but not if you don't recognize the fact that there's a lot of shit and you have no idea what the hell's going on. So, well,
that's one of those things people don't realize, the fact that if you come from like the game design world, or like you're saying, you're trying to make this as a game and get it off the ground, and then you like you said, you learn quickly, like you learn and you adapted, and that's the best thing for it, because there's a lot of people, they go into comics, it's like you can do them that's almost a style you can do them stiff. Steve Ditko, who still makes comics, he's like 92 years old. The guy still makes comics. He has like an office in Manhattan. He just does his thing. He's a hermit. He doesn't want, like, Neil Gaiman and Jonathan Ross, they did a documentary back about 10 years ago, maybe even longer, and like looking for Steve Ditko, and they found him. And he's like, get these cameras out of here. I'll be on film. Get out of here. Here's some signed comics, and I'll leave. But his comics are, he did Spider-Man. He did that. Everybody, like, one of the things like he was known for is this panel, these multiple pages where Peter Parker as Spider-Man is underneath this rubble, and the panels get bigger and bigger as he finally breaks free. And it's this, I think it's Spider-Man 33, where he breaks free. But now the comics he does, like, everything that's non-creator, like this, his creator owns of non-Marvel, which is pretty much everything now. I don't think he's done a corporate book in about 25 years. His stuff is very square, basically 16 panels per page, which is a lot, very dense storytelling.
Yeah, that's a little tough to look at.
It is, but like, I think it kind of works for his style, because it's very stripped down. There's not much shadow, not much line work. It's, he's 90-something years old, but he's still making comics. There's a lot of people half his age, like, oh, I gave up. He hasn't given up. He's got his Ayn Randian philosophy, but you can make that work in certain occurrences. But as far as a modern storytelling about a tank crew, 4 characters, you can't really do that in that kind of that flat. Boom, boom, boom. Here,
no, it's over and over. Just because you're checking the boxes of the aesthetic doesn't mean that you get a narrative out of that. I'm lucky enough that I took a good amount of writing classes in college, and I actually accelerated at it, which surprised me, because I did really bad at English and writing in high school, and then once I went to storytelling in college, suddenly it was better. I can't explain that. Something changed in me, I guess. But like, that was the thing. It was very much, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to tell a story about the characters. That's fundamentally what the story is. We have a nice aesthetic to sit on top, but if we didn't feel like we were going to be able to build actual characters, we probably wouldn't have approached it that way. In fact, we probably would have maybe tried mobile games or something. So,
well, it's like one of those things about character development. Like, you can have a good plot, you can have a good, this is what's happening, this is going to happen. If you don't have the characters, to carry you, make you care for what's going on, it's kind of like it's hollow. And that right there, that's something. Sounds like you've planned this out pretty well, you and your creative partner, and because it's both of you working on it together, right?
Yeah, his name is Mike Moore. He's my best friend from high school, and we ended up basically staying friends all the way through college and working on stuff. And I do work for my dad's security company, and sometimes I hire him in. We just have always remained friends, always remained close. He's a musician, so we kind of had this concept because actually, believe it or not, that game we were working on, we had just brought him on, and it was like, here's the ideas for kind of the music we're thinking. And I had just been talking to him about this concept, and then that fell apart pretty quickly, what we were working on. So basically me and him decided, okay, well, if we were going to do something on our own, what would we do? And at first it was, okay, we'll have a book with like a light novel with an audio component with like some character audio logs, that kind of stuff. We met an artist because we thought, okay, there should probably be some character art, right? And we met an artist, and he convinced us, with Ben Harvey, who's our artist on the project, he convinced us that probably the story would be best told with a comic book format. And I thought, at first, I was like, oh, okay, well, it's a novel. How hard could it convert over? And then I learned, never assume that, because every little thing you want to change is. So there were significant changes. I had to chop significant parts of just screenplay type stuff. It's funny. The rule in screenplay is you always cover dialogue with action, and that's a very, very good rule in general, because you never want two people in a room just talking to each other and flat camera angles going back and forth. Always somebody should be doing something. And then the second rule is you don't make it any longer than it needs to be. And with comedy, you get a little bit of flexibility because sometimes you're setting up a joke. But in general, you don't have people share any more information and talk about how their day was, even though, yeah, maybe they did talk about how their day was, but you got to get the viewer out of that scene. And in a screenplay and in a light novel, there's a lot more tolerance and flexibility, and like, oh, you can get inside the characters' heads a little more. And in a comic, you really, especially if you have an ensemble cast, you have to move things at a much, much faster pace and tell a deeper story in a different way through using the art and the panels than specifically what the dialogue is and what actually is like. Because there's the what's happening, but then there's the way you present it is the relationship, I should say, with the person you're presenting it to, because of the way they're visually taking it in. It's a different animal, and I had to learn a lot of that through a good amount of trial and error. But I'm pretty sure what we got right now is where we need to be.
Yeah, Braylon, I know you're like you said, you're not the biggest, like as far as your back catalog of comics, like you really got into it heavy more recently. But that right there, not having the story be like having it just being a bunch of talking heads, I have a feeling you're on the same wavelength as I am, where you've read a lot of comics where they kind of dip into that world.
Yeah, man. And it's one of those things too, because a lot of times the writing is fine when you have those moments. Not a lot of times, but I've seen comics where the writing is good. I'm like, this is some good dialogue. The exposition works, but nothing is going on, and it's just like 2 pages of them just going back and forth. I was like, this would be a lot more interesting if maybe, I don't know if they're walking through a corridor, or let's say they're in the middle of something, if it's a superhero comic, or maybe it's let's say a noir book, right? And they're investigating a crime scene. Instead of talking about like some dude's drama that's going on at the house and stuff's going through, make it like conversational while they're investigating a crime scene. That would be more interesting than them just sitting in an office talking about it. You need something going on. And, otherwise it just feels like you're just reading just flat, words off a page, and just pictures are there to fill in the blanks.
It's really funny you should mention noir, because my writing teacher in college, who I probably learned probably learned the most from in terms of just creative writing in general, to the point where I thought I could actually do it. He's a noir writer, and he's from Pittsburgh. And he was talking about basically that exact kind of storytelling. And he said, so you're writing the cop scene, and you're writing the typical, he has to talk to the chief, because the police chief is important, and there's a certain amount of information that needs to be relayed. You can't get out of that in the plot, because he's a police officer. He has a job, right? And the typical scene is he goes into the office, and they have a conversation back and forth. But you don't do that if you can avoid doing that. So he was explaining, well, you make up a narrative. The police chief has a heart condition, and he has to do a certain amount of cardio every day. So he's at the pool, and he's swimming at the pool, and he's doing laps. And now your character has to go see him in a strange place, and he's walking back and forth with this guy who's swimming laps. And they're sharing effectively the same information for the story, but you get a much, much richer world where you feel like this is strange, but it's believable. And I'm not just staring at two guys in an office. You might as well just read an email exchange between the two, because that's all the information you're exchanging. But if you add a little bit of color to it, you can basically load the reader with information they need to know without making them realize, oh wait, this is the part where two guys are just exchanging things for the sake of the audience knowing.
Yeah, that rather you actually explaining that in my head, like you describing that, I see the scene in my head. I actually see the camera angles. I actually see like a say boom shot, whatever. It's like a helicopter angle looking down. You see the chief swimming in the pool. Our detective standing at the pool side, a jacket in hand, like a coat in hand. Got his hat. Maybe got his hat in hand as well. And just going, walking, kind of pacing back and forth like just like a tiger in a cage.
Yeah, you got the smell of the chlorine, the echo.
Yeah,
there's rich environment to it, and that can really, really, really help you cover otherwise the mundane.
Well, there's a lot of the comic that comes to mind. There is an issue, and it's the one where I realized I kept on picking up the comic afterwards because I was really dumb at this point. I'm still dumb, but I was like, I'm wisened up on certain things. It was an issue of Ultimate Spider-Man written by Bendis. The entire issue was just nothing but dialogue between May Parker and Mary Jane's aunt. It was just a dialogue the entire issue.
So an episode of Golden Girls, like what?
Basically, Golden Girls. Basically, if you took out like all the fun out of Golden Girls, all the sexual innuendo, all that, and even like at least the set dressing made it so interesting. It was like just them two sitting in like a black room, and that's all it was. It was like that's what it felt like. I might be exaggerating a bit, but yeah. It was just like, oh my god, I hate this. And there was like that. When you pick up a comic, you expect to have certain things, especially the Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm like, all right, and it was just an issue about talking about, I guess, Mary Jane and Peter possibly, engaging in sexual intercourse, and are they ready, kind of thing. And it's like, your niece and my nephew, this it's like that's maybe two panels, maybe two tops.
Well, it's a boring, awkward conversation that yes, it's believable. Maybe that is necessary for the plot, or necessary for the reader to know about this awareness that these two characters share, but how are you going to entertain the reader while portraying information?
Yeah, I think that is not going to be a problem for you, considering you'd have to be really bad at your job to make 4 girls in the Abrams tank cruising around, and that right there, to make that boring, to make that like, oh, boring, dull. Because with the project, you have audio logs. Because I've actually been playing.
Yes, that's what makes us so different. Actually, is really that
original music and audio logs. And funny you're doing that. Recently, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, which was a PSP game, they brought it over to Xbox 360.
Through the with Metal Gear Collection.
Yeah, it's backwards compatible. And in there you have the Walkman, so you can change music on the fly. Like you can go around playing different music, and you have the audio logs as well from like different characters, and you talk about stuff.
Very much inspired by Metal Gear. My partner and I, we are I mean, I've got not that I don't have not that I don't look at Metal Gear critically, but I loved it in terms of the immersion, the way the audio was done. I mean, the whole first game is a radio drama on top of gameplay.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, yeah, there's pictures and stuff, but like the majority of it is a handful of cinematic stuff, but the majority of the information the viewer gets is a radio drama, and you're just immersed. People absolutely connected, and I was kind of we're going for something close to that. We want to see if that we can make that kind of connection with somebody who's reading a graphic novel, the same way somebody connected to the audio logs in Borderlands or the audio logs in Metal Gear or something like that. Like we're trying to tap into that. I mean, I don't fully understand that why that connected so well with us and other people, but we're gonna try. So there you go.
Well, that right there, the ambition is clearly that you have a passion for it. And I know a lot of people when they do their Kickstarters, they want it, they want to get it funded, but they don't express their passion for it. Their drive, and you seem to have a lot of drive for your project for Column, which comes out on April 3rd. Of course, I got all the links and everything, even the preview from Comixcentral, the free. Preview.
Yes, it's free. It's free if you really want to know what you're getting into. That's the best way.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's 22 pages. It's bigger than a regular comic. It's free.
That's what's crazy considering so many Kickstarters. I'm very cautious on what I kickstart. I've had few regrets. I've done a few, and as far as kickstarting a few, and then I'm like, oh no, this is a bad idea. But it's very few. But it's that happens mainly because of interactions with the creators, like certain things like. Oh, so you were going to get this book put out through another company, but you wanted to prove via Kickstarter that the book was worth it, not say, "Oh,
you're proving demand." Essentially,
yeah, it's like you got a back end deal already hooked up, but you're not telling nobody up front. So you're thinking, "Oh, I'm helping." No, it's like you're just basically prepaying for a book from this company. The company didn't believe in the book. But they would if you get it funded, crowdfunded. That right there, burn my. And also when you don't say it's volume 1 of this, and so it's like turns out it's only basically like the first chapter, and so there's actually no conclusion at the end. So it's kind of a open ended, almost not cliffhanger, but too open ended for my taste. But
I think my problem is that some of the books that are like around on Kickstarter. They don't have a way for you to get them. It's like if you didn't support the Kickstarter, you can't like get it digitally or something. I'm like, well, you think you would put it on like Comics Central or something for people that would still want to purchase it, right? But I don't know. I find that a bit weird. Like Larry mentioned, I would rather wait for a complete project, right? Like let's say. You have like a 3-issue story arc. Have the Kickstarter for that 3-issue story arc. Don't have it like, Kickstarter for the first issue, and then maybe we'll get a second. I was like, well, what's the point of investing the money if there's not necessarily, some payback, or you're just going to say, you know what, I changed my mind. Thanks for who supported, but we're not going to wrap this up. And I was like, dude, I supported your Kickstarter for like the last 5 issues, and now I get nothing from it. I don't even get a conclusion. That's kind of my biggest fear, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much. I'm trying to mitigate. We were strongly against doing a Kickstarter for that exact reason. But basically, we spent all the money we have on the project. Oh, we have a little left over, but not enough to print and distribute. And we actually went to publishers and people who could possibly support the idea. We got a lot of positive feedback. Most people seem to love it, but then they would say, it's not really right for us. And pretty much you name the publisher, we pretty much submitted it. And they're just, and this whole audio thing is so weird for them. They're like, yeah, we don't really want to handle that because it means they have to somehow, handle audio distribution. And it's not something they're interested in doing. So we're kind of on our own. But that said, with even though that is a weird thing, the project is done. We're going in April 3rd. Everything is ready to be printed. We just basically need to write a check to the printer. We have a way to distribute the audio that's within the budget of what we're doing. So you're going to get the audio no matter what. And we can guarantee, that we'll make it available digitally afterwards. We'll make it available. We're going to try to sell it to stores. We're going to try to handle our own distribution. It's just a matter of basically we need this little boost to basically get that first printing run down. Because, you know, if we print 100 copies, then the cost per copy ends up being, you know, God knows, at minimum, you're talking minimum like $15 to get per book. And you can't basically make any money doing that. But if we, you know, have enough money from a Kickstarter to print 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 copies, now basically your cost per copy, your MSRP goes down. We can get everybody what they ordered immediately because the project's done. And we can then send it to stores. We can make it available from different places of distribution. That's kind of where we're at basically. Is the product's done, so we guarantee you're getting what you're asking for. You're not saying, oh, we're going to back you and then hope you write a story. You know, like we hope you finish this. We hope you budgeted for the audio because you're promising a lot. But no, it's done. We we can guarantee you that what we're saying, it's in our hands. It just hasn't gone to the printer yet.
So, are you planning on also doing a? So from that cost analysis, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not going to do like dig deep or anything like that. But so it sounds like it's got full color, your graphic novel.
Full color, 91 pages, and number of music tracks. That's actually kind of up to Mike. Mike's prepping tracks and depends on what he wants to be in there. But for terms of audio logs, 6 for our inaugural issue. 6 different characters.
Okay.
Professional VAs. So that's, you know, 91 pages of color, 6 music, and then 6 audio logs for the characters. So it's on the large side. Let's just say.
So this is the first volume. Well, 96 pages. It's not 96, right?
I think it's 91, but like the book itself ends up being 96.
Okay.
You have to have like thanks and all that other stuff.
Oh, okay. In the credits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Information.
Well, we're going to have a Kickstarter page that thanks everybody who participated and so on.
Well, because I've actually picked up graphic novels that have been about 96 pages. I think anything over 64, I guess, classifies as a graphic novel. I believe that's how it works. Or as far as like if it's original work.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that like you can't really staple bind past 64, no matter how cheap and thin the paper is. So it kind of once you go that you have to go to perfect binding at least, and then it's a graphic novel at that point. That's actually mostly what it has to do with is, I mean, everything's just a big fat comic book, but in the colloquial term, it seems to be, from at least when I was trying to calculate how to get this thing printed, that seemed to be what the rules were basically. If it's staple bound, do they classify it as a comic? If it's perfect bound or something else, then it's a graphic novel.
So it's one complete story in this first volume, or is it just a chapter? Or
volume 1 is half of the North America story.
Okay, but so like that right there, so you have do you have the second half finished, or is that going to
volume 2 is fully written? We have to pay the artist. So that's we put everything we had up front into making sure this thing was correct and of quality. And assuming we, you know, basically make our money back, then we'll be able to basically have volume 2 in a couple months. The writing's done, my stuff's done. Here's a fun thing: the audio is done for volume 2.
Okay, cool. So you have thought of the future. You've got to read the ball rolling for everything. I've heard horror stories where people like, oh yeah, we're working on volume 1 finished. It's like, well, we got, you know, volume, like 3 volumes planned. Volume 2 not even written, not even nothing for it really. I have the plot outlined. I'm like, so you have 3 volumes and you don't even have your work done. But good to hear that you actually do. That everything is getting
Volume 2 is ready to. I mean, it's just a matter of basically like I could spend the money and pay the artist and I would have probably not had the money to get like the whole thing in color or something. You know, it's basically like, what were we going to do with the first half? And it was basically, you know, we'll just go all the way. We'll make it 100% the quality we needed to make rather than just shoot wide for the material. What is that?
That was
an ad. My bad. I'm trying to
I was like, is that a car going by with that playing?
Oh, yeah.
That's loud. Or is that like I thought it might be a train coming through. I didn't know what was going on.
I was trying to hurry up and like close it out, and then I was like, no, it says, oh, we're opening it in another video player. I was like, no, that's not what I don't close out.
The fun of streaming. It's all every little bit of audio.
I think it was funny because it was like the way the microphone was picking it up. It's like real quiet at first, and it just got louder. I was like, "What is happening?"
An orchestra starting up. Yeah, but with your project, and like you said, I know a lot of people that would go that the black and white or black and white little with screen tones and toning that way. But you went full in, like so you ain't joking around with a full color.
That's what we did. For better or for worse, that was we thought, and I was kind of looking at what was out there in the market, and I was like, well, we've got this special audio angle, so that's different. But I kind of feel like it probably needs to stand on its own. So all right, we'll do the full color, and now it's now there's no excuse. Like oh well, it's in black and white, but it comes with this thing I don't want. Now it's kind of like, well, anybody, even if you don't care about the audio, it's of quality. So that's kind of where our thoughts were. I mean, that may be right, that may be wrong, but we chose that path 2 years ago, and we're stuck. So
you can plant your feet in the dirt. You're not going to take one step back. There you go. That's a good thing to go about it. It's. That's one of those.
Well, you can't when the money's gone. When you've already spent it, there's no going back.
No. As one of those tattoos, no regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets. You misspelled it. Just like either intentionally or unintentionally misspell regrets as regrets. So you can no regrets. But yeah, it's like with from the way it sounds, like it's high quality of what I've seen. Everything seems like it doesn't. You have the passion for it. You have this multimedia angle with the audio logs and original music. You have full color. It looks like a very fun comic. Only thing I was like, I don't want to say like. Please tell me it doesn't get real depressing. It could be.
We went for 80s action movie in tone.
Okay.
And particularly our opening issue is I'm not saying that there's not a little bit of darkness to it because it's war, but it's bright. It's happy, Lexi smiling face, as you can see, and we kind of want to keep things upbeat.
Okay, good, because I was thinking I've read some horrific stuff in my many years of reading comics, whether it be from Europe, America, Japan, wherever, and everything looks so like happy and wonderful and like fun and like it looks like it'd be action packed, and you start reading, it's like, oh my God! It's like hello darkness, my old friend. It's just
we only wanted to the aesthetic. It's actually it's funny you mention that because the original version that was the light novel treatment was a lot darker, and the art we were having done was actually like realistic, and it was just like it was about these two guys traveling with this group, and it had like a lot more of a darker tone to it. When we decided to switch art to this, I don't even know what to describe this. It's not chibi, but it's not fully manga. It's somewhere kind of in the middle. We decided that basically, one, we got to keep things lighthearted, and then two, there's enough of a contrast between the violence of what's going on and the cuteness of the art. We don't need to make the reader want to kill themselves.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I'm glad to hear that it's taken it's got that 80s vibe. And even hey, I love Predator. Predator is fun action film, but it's really dark at times. Here's these soldiers disemboweled. People getting hey, stick around. The great little one-liner, but you realize people. There's people burning alive, people stabbed, shot, blown up. It's like if you stop and think about it, it's fun as the ride's going along. But if you stop and think, the ride breaks down, and you have time to think, it's like, that guy just got murdered by this alien hunter, and his spine and skull ripped out, and is taken as a trophy, and he's polishing his skull and running his little claw fingers over. It's like, okay, Yeah, that's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, there's
Just try not to think about that too much. Try not to think
but
about
they don't overdo it. And there's it's funny because that is a pretty dark and scary movie. So like if you're 13, you watch that, it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
but you get such a good nostalgic feel about it because you kind of you realize you're there in a movie to be entertained, and there's some good things about it, and you're not looking for that for a moral equivalence of your world. You're not trying to like justify it existing. You're just like, I'm here to be entertained, and that's closer to the approach we've taken. So,
well, and it's a shame to hear to hear that you went to publishers and stuff, and they'd give you positive feedback, but that's about it. But considering some of these publishers, and I've seen lately, like the quality of content they've been putting out has just
Black Mask. Isn't that one of the main publishers or something like that?
well,
I sent them an email. I guess that was probably last year, and they didn't. There's a lot of you just don't hear anything back from. They're not really interested in. They're interested in doing what they're doing, and when you kind of create a project, you have to sell it to them, and most of them are not buying right now because they're all downsizing. Like they're cutting their own lines because they're doing so terrible that they're not really looking to pick up somebody else and take a risk. So I kind of understand that.
Well, maybe if you made your book about being a transsexual prostitute on the streets of Seattle, you might actually have a chance of getting it published.
Well, it is. It's a bait and switch. You turn the cover. That's what it's about.
That's actually really funny how that planned out. It's like cuckoo, you're cuckoo.
That's the Austrian cuckoo clock going off in the corner.
Hey, those are nice and to have and not to be trifled with. But yeah, it's like that's the disappointing thing about a lot of these companies. They become almost like Vertigo light, like where once upon a time you'd have books come out where they would be much more ambitious, a much wider scale, where you'd have, something almost for all ages, some of it like action oriented, some of it kind of personal, like, autobiographical, that kind of stuff, to sci-fi, somewhat superhero. But now it seems like they're just getting to that, niche of a niche of a niche, so boutique comics. And, there's not a place for... like your work. It's not like something along those lines. Like it's something that's bright and action, and that's the thing. Like it looks fun, and that's what I was hoping it wasn't depressing.
That's what we're fun. We want somebody to have a good time, to enjoy it, and maybe it's not the best thing they've ever read. I mean, we'd like to think they think it is, but we want them to walk away with a smile and have a little more immersion, and attachment to the characters, the things that make, like the first Spider-Man comic. It's it's not a masterpiece, but there's something there. It's fun and it's bright and it's colorful, and you're just like, I like this world. I want to see more of it.
So I get that. So that right there, wanting to capture that and actually have somebody that picks us up. That somebody, whether whether they're looking for, like you said, 80s action, they're looking for from your icon of your Google icon, I see a little bit of that 90s kind of bad girl look as well, with the the thong strap on the hips kind of thing.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Yeah,
that's fine. That's the kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of people now that I grew up in that era of reading comics. Like, I have a row of comics I call my 90s trash comics. It's like Youngblood, Supreme, Spawn, Wildcats, Fathom, and Witchblade, and the 10th, and and all the Tony Daniel books like Silk and F5 and Adrenaline and all this stuff.
Oh man!
And Battle Chasers. Actually, I have a Spanish copy of Battle Chasers, the hardcover, because the American one was like $200. I was like, all right, I'll get the one in Spanish.
It's impossible I will learn to get Battle Chasers now, bro. And it's crazy because. He never wrapped it up, but after I don't know if you saw it. There's this gaming documentary channel. They're really new, but they're starting to get a following. They did an interview with Joe Mad. It was really good. I don't know if you've seen it.
I started watching it, and I didn't get around to finishing it because something else came up at the time, and I got to go back and finish watching it. It started. I got me 30 seconds in, and something came up right away, and I was like, oh crap, and never got back to it. But They actually, in the hardcover I have, the Spanish hardcover actually has the first like 5 pages of the issue that he just stopped working on because he started getting in games, and so he just abandoned and that's another thing. I have no sympathy for creators that when they start something they don't finish it. That's my biggest complaint. They start stuff and never finish it. And I don't care how well the payday is and stuff. You broke a promise, and you got to keep that promise. But that's how I feel. But it's like it's disappointing because
I can guarantee anybody who backs this Kickstarter, they will have the copy in their hands. It's written, it's done. There's no development. There's no like, oh, I gotta pay somebody to do. No, it's just going to the printer. That's all you gotta worry about.
Okay, because that right there, it's like one of the, like you see, there are some much. I call them, they're called professionals. I'm using heavy air quotes here. Professionals that have started Kickstarter projects. Let me make a name the news. Rob Liefeld, B. Claymore, have started projects and never delivered. Rob Liefeld 5 years ago did a Kickstarter. Hey, raise money for a comic to come out, and money got raised. Comic never came out. B. Claymore, same thing. And then it was given excuses up to like 6 months ago or whatever. Like, oh, there are some issues. I'll catch up. I'll explain what was going on. Nothing. 6 months. He's still on Twitter. He's active in social media. He just won't.
I see him around. I know something hanging over him. I couldn't sleep at night if I needed to deliver something like that, and especially if I had been paid for it.
It was like wasn't it? It was like 35,000 or something like that.
Yeah, for his the big Hawaiian Dick, that Hawaiian Dick series, that did like oversized collection, and what I have heard, and I may be wrong about this. I'll be willing to take back what I say if I'm proven wrong. That it was tight. The rights were sold off, or we call it where like they have been licensed. The rights have been like for a film, like that kind of thing, like with a multimedia franchise rights kind of thing for Hawaiian Dick. And if that's the case, he could just say, legal snafu, we'll get this sorted out as soon as possible, to date to be determined or something. At least that's something. But then like, oh, I'll get back to you soon, and nothing happens. That's very unfortunate.
That's a little bizarre, not knowing you own the full rights to produce something.
Well, I think it was like he had, somebody had licensed, no, what do you mean? Optioned it. Optioned. There you go. That's the correct word I'm looking for. Had optioned Hawaiian Dick, which is his creation, but because like when it happens, I forgot which creator did it. Frank Cho. Somebody had optioned Liberty Meadows, so he couldn't do anything with it because that included all. Because when they option it, it's usually these production houses, and they want to be able to control the print rights as well as the TV and the movie, and anything else, whether it be radio dramas, what have you, or internet videos, this, that. So
it was just a generic own everything, basically. Yeah,
maybe he didn't read the contract or something. I don't know. So why do a Kickstarter for a project that you're not going to even actually go through with, which is quite unfortunate. But that is not the case here, because Column is actually going to be started out on April 3rd, which is just less than 2 weeks away.
Yeah, this has been a very quick month.
Don't get no ulcers now. Don't get no ulcers.
Oh, I guarantee you, April 3rd is going to happen. I'm going to get the worst flu. It's gonna be a mess, but
get some of that B12. Get some of that B12 vitamins. But so when how long is the Kickstarter going to be from April 3rd to what's the finish?
It's probably going to be just till the end of the month. I mean that's what we were recommended, so that's the plan. It will just be April 3rd to the end of April. So
yeah, so that right there, you're going to start out April 3rd. Do you have any stretch goals in mind, or are you just focused on getting
the more stretch goals in terms of, for one thing, we can give you more stuff. We might be able to give everybody a poster if we had a certain stretch goal, because then the cost per unit goes. Because the higher you do it, the cost per unit goes down because the higher the volume we're printing. That's the God's honest truth. If we barely hit our goal, then we can deliver what we promised. If we start farly exceeding that, well, now basically the cost of our printing per individual unit goes down, now we can start throwing in things like, hey, we had some more different types of posters made, and we can send everybody a poster, or we can do yeah, I don't know. I mean, if we make enough money, we could custom basically get new audio or something. Definitely volume 2, we can say, hey, look, volume 2 won't even have a Kickstarter. It's just going to be coming out in 6 months or whenever it is, depending on obviously how much money we raise. So it's do we have stretch goals in mind? Yes. I don't like to say in the sense of like, oh, what's our individual specific plans for the stretch goals. I will gladly cross that bridge when I get there.
You just want to get the funding taken care of and go ahead and get that out of the way. And
exactly.
Get that, like that right there. That is your goal to get. It's basically consider column. Like most vehicles, on a cold day, you need a little bit of a kickstart. Throw a little bit of ether in that engine, wake it up.
Well, I mean, I'll be completely honest. The cost to produce column is a fraction, or I should say, not a fraction. Is multiple times more than this cost of this printing part of it. So it's we're not looking for. We're not looking to raise money to produce a product and then print it. This is just the printing. So if we can hit our goal, which is probably going to be, we're debating, we're going to be between 7,500 and 10. And we hit that, we can print 1,000 copies, send out to everybody who ordered, and we send people posters and all that other stuff. That's all factored in. And then we can start distributing it to stores and to cons and whatnot. And if we go beyond that, then it's like, okay, now we have the funding to pay the artist to get done volume 2. And if we have enough, then we can also print. We can start working on volume 3 at the same time if we need to. We just want to make sure we can do everything. We don't allocate all of the money, because everything you think that it's going to, like, if we estimate it's going to, $20,000 to pay the artist to get the next section, right? So we think, $20,000 over. Well, you better get to somewhere when you're Kickstartering to probably closer to 40, because not only do you need to, not only are your expenses going to be in basically half that money, you now need to function while you wait for that process to actually finish, and you also have to be ready for all kinds of stuff that is completely unexpected. Like, for example, like we had to add an extra page. And if we had if we had run a Kickstarter ahead of time and we had hit the goal and we said, okay, we have this much money we're spending on the art and we get this much per page. And then he comes back and he says, look, there's a screw up and we need to add an extra page, like we actually had. And I had to rewrite a bunch of stuff and change things, but it wasn't a big deal because we had enough money in the reserve to say, okay, well, there's another page here. This is going to cost a couple extra $100 to fix this problem. But you have to be ready for that. And I think a lot of people with Kickstarter get in trouble where they say, okay, it's X amount of $1,000 to print and it's X amount of $1,000 to do this, and then they give themselves no buffer room. And then on top of that, while all these things are happening, they're not getting any income because they're waiting for this product to be created. So they have nothing to go off of. And it's very scary and very tedious. But I think, especially because the product's done ahead of time, we're minimizing as much of that risk as possible. So stretch goals is kind of where it comes back into taking the risk in terms of investing forward. But in this case, it's like very specifically at this, it's just the printing and shipping we're handling. So
this isn't one of these kind of like, I've seen some of the Kickstarters where they start out like, hey, we got to pay the artist, we got to do this, we got to do that, and it's then like something happening. Kickstarter's, hey, it's successful, hey, great, everybody clap. And I'm thinking, I'm seeing it from the from the sidelines because I'm like, I don't participate in those Kickstarters. I'm much more likely to participate and help kickstart books. It's like, hey, we're just trying to get the printing, we're just trying to get the physical media done and get it out there to readers that want to read it, which is great. But then you see these people, it's like we have a couple concept art, and here's like a synopsis, a light synopsis, and that's about it. The pitch, the elevator pitch, and you just see a person standing like like they're their living room. They're standing in front of the living room wall, and you see like you see the fan blades going. You know, the reflection, the shadow, and on the wall. It's like, oh, we're gonna do this, and it's like, all right, maybe actually show me some work. Let me like.
You're kind of buying an idea, and and not only that, you're putting faith into the individual person that they can get everything done for the budget that they're raising, and we've kind of cut that out because you don't have to have a whole lot of faith in me because regardless of whether we spent our initial budget wisely, which I'm sure we've wildly overspent in certain ways, basically trying to make this thing a thing. I mean, we definitely could have going back done it more efficiently, but you don't have to worry about that because that's already done. And I'm not relying on the Kickstarter money to get the project actually made. It's just this one little piece, which is just the printing. So you could physically have a copy. So that's, I hope that kind of impresses on people. I hope they don't have to, I hope they're not basically investing in me too much personally, because you don't have to worry. It's done. You know, like I'm not saying, there's a lot of people that, oh, we're going to make a game and they have no experience. And there's one guy at the head of the thing and he might have a great idea, but he's not, you know, he doesn't know any 3D artists and he doesn't know how much this costs and this costs, you know, and that's why you see stuff like, what was it? It was like, it was that one like RPG and like they raised like $2 million and it just evaporated.
Oh, you mean Star Citizen? Oh, no, not that. It was Star Citizen.
Oh, that's Star Citizen's a whole other debacle.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
that's a good example of okay, you know, you know us. I know how to make a game, right? You trust me to build this thing, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, and sometimes that works out. You can argue in Star Citizen's case, but in something like Mighty Number 9, where at least they delivered a product, but you're like, yeah, that was not an efficient way to spend the money, you know. And for this, at least it's like, you guys, there's none of this goes towards me doing anything other than writing a check to the printer and then shipping it to you. That's it. There's no like, oh, we've underestimated the cost of getting the audio done. Oh, we've underestimated the cost of getting the coloring and the art. None of that is on the basically the Kickstarter crowd. They don't have to worry about that. We thought that was very, very important. So
well, are you also considering like PDF, CBZ, those kind of files as well? Like, you know,
there's digital version available as well.
Okay, and so will that launch? You know, will that launch after the Kickstarter's wrapped up?
After the Kickstarter, because I want to have the special thanks page in the digital version as well. So
okay.
if you back it, and you're in the list, because we have like a tier or whatever that's for like, oh, your name's in the book and so on. We want to thank everybody involved with that, regardless of whether, and that'll be in every copy, regardless of whether it's a physical copy or a digital copy. So that'll kind of keep that helps keep the files kind of consistent. The only thing I'll have to change is the cover, depending on where it's being provided from. So, but that'll be available afterwards.
Okay, cool.
You'll probably get it first if you buy from the Kickstarter, because I'm going to make sure that basically the distribution's handled and being sent out before we start uploading to Comixcentral, Comixology, and all these other outlets. So.
Well, that's good right there, because I know a lot of people, like Braylon was saying earlier, with the when they do Kickstarters, it's like, oh, you didn't get it then. I'm sorry. This is like it's like that Disney, you know, we gotta put it back in the vault, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's part of me is like, I understand why people do that, because they want the incentive to be, please, for God's sake, help me with this Kickstarter, because and if I make it available afterwards, it might fail, and then they might not have a reason to back it up. I'm kind of trying to sell, and basically from our perspective, we're trying to sell a new type of storytelling in a lot of way. So yes, there's the printing, there's the guarantee it will be available afterwards. If you help us, that much more being able to deliver these type of stories to you faster. So that's kind of what I hope the motivation is. We'll see how that works out. I hope nobody's like, oh yeah, well, you'll be able to buy it afterwards, so not worry about it. I hope that's not the case. But that's, you know, that's the risk we have to take. So
I know for me personally, it's just one of those things. There's certain things that, yes, I do like digitally, but there's just some things. A digital copy is no substitute for a comic in your hands. and something like this would definitely be something I would want physically. Having it digitally would be also cool too, but I was like, I want
when you get the physical copy, it will come with a download code for the audio, which also includes a digital copy. So you have both when you buy the physical copy.
Oh, that's great. Cool, man.
So that's the other thing, is because something digitally has to be provided anyway, where we'll throw in basically a digital background poster for, like a high res, because you've seen the promo posters we've had. So like a couple of high res ones of those, and there'll be the audio, and then there'll also be the file that is the ebook version, so you can look at it on your devices, and you're not choosing between the digital and physical. You can get the physical, and it'll give you both.
I had one question about the artist. What made you decide to go with that? Because I know I had commented a while back ago. I was like, this reminds me of Full Metal Panic.
Yeah. Another thing we're a big fan of. The artist, his name's Ben Harvey, and he's from Philadelphia, so he's local. And we were looking for, this is back when it was going to be a graphic, a light novel, and we were looking for an artist to hook up with, basically to make character concepts, and also, so we could eventually have like basically pictures in the book event, every chapter. And we just met him, and we met with him a couple times, and we were working with him, and then one day he sent us basically, it's not quite what you see now, but it's extremely similar. I guess I can't really bring it up on the screen or anything, but
I can screw. If you can let me know, because I'm looking them up right now. His art station and everything.
Let me see if I can send. I think I can. Can I send images over Twitter? Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you can. Go ahead and DM.
I'm going to send it to you. This was our initial concept image, and they weren't color granted. Oh no, well, one of them was color. So let's see this character. Oh, that's the wrong folder. It's the characters, Americans. Let's see. Hunter.
By the way, I've got to say, the guy, I forgot his name, the one with the mask that wears the helmet and everything, is a lot more expressive than I expected. I'm really looking forward to finding out more about him.
He's a bit of a kind of your Call of Duty protagonist sort of aesthetic to him, where he's kind of the faceless guy with the mask on. But we wanted to take a twist on that, essentially. So let's see. Oh, you got to be kidding me! Here I am talking about this, and I can't find the damn.
It's like a car key. Once you start trying to look for them, you can't find them. But yeah, when it comes to these characters, like right there, like that, bring in some interesting little folks. Like I said, like a little bit of touching on stuff like Call of Duty and I know this isn't the case. But when Braylon had mentioned, and I looked at I looked at your work, looked at the comic. It reminded me of this short. It was CG though, but I don't know why it reminded me of it. Just I guess because of the tone, I guess. There was a animated short that was based on a comic apparently called Cat Shit 1. It's about these rabbits.
The little bunnies, yeah.
Yeah, with the bunnies hunting down terrorists, but they got like the modern warfare looking gear. And
yeah, it was, and it had it looked like Metal Gear Solid 4 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was a parody. I was so confused.
It's apparently the is a, let's see, I know it's a manga. I don't know if I think manga, definitely predates. The manga is called by Motofumi Kobayashi. Apocalypse Meow was the original manga's title, and it actually originally published in Japan as Cat Shit 1 in 1998 by SoftBank Publishing, and it was renamed to Apocalypse Meow. But yeah, in that little trailer they got, it's like a 4-minute long trailer. They're like sniping. They're sniping camel terrorists, which is very very on PC, but I like it.
Okay, so I didn't know that was based on anything. I just thought that was like a video going around, because mine did have subtitles. It just was in Japanese, and I was like, is this supposed to be a Metal Gear Solid 5? Like, what is this? It's doing all this like CQC stuff. This adorable little hamster, and he's
It's great.
oh
It's a
my
great
God.
little thing. Yeah, it's like I'm surprised it's still on YouTube. It should be, but
Isn't Timothy Lim
yeah.
doing Black Hops or whatever? It's like kind of the same thing.
I think so. I haven't like I there's so much stuff like these news popping up and everything. It's like it's hard to keep track of it a lot of the time. Like the feed just starts it's like a machine gun of content coming out. Everybody's got something going on.
Everybody kind of got the same idea at the same time, where it was like, wow, the comic industry is kind of crap right now. Let's do our own thing. And then here's that seed was planted, 5 years ago. And now all of a sudden everybody's projects are coming up. So.
Yeah, it's like all the chickens are coming home to roost because. Yeah. But I look at it this way: that is healthy of a sign that people are actually just. I see less and less of comics actually being, hey, it's like Invincible. Hey, Invincible is like, it's if Spider-Man was a son of Superman. That's it. That's all. Like, or really, Spider-Man was a son of Zod. That's it. And then you have stuff like Walking Dead. And I'm kind of picking on Robert Kirkman, but a lot of his ideas are like, hey, what if you have the beginning of 28 Days Later meets a Romero film, but it never ended? That's it. Where humans are the real monsters. We get it, Robert. We get it. I stopped reading the comics a long time ago. Stopped watching the show a long time ago because guess what? When the zombie 2 minutes of zombies, 40 minutes of humans, 2 minutes of zombies. Roll credits. It's like that. Rinse, repeat. Repeat.
I couldn't make it through season 2, and I just stopped at that point.
I think a lot of people stopped at that point. I actually started watching when I had Netflix before I canceled because I'm a big fan of GTA 5 because of Trevor and the actor Stephen Ogg. It was on there. I was like, because everybody's like, Negan, he's great. Lucille is bad and all this and that. I found him to be boring. I was like, no, it should be his number 2 guy, his right hand man, because he's more interesting. It's Trevor on meds. He's still crazy, but he's only slightly crazy. It's only slightly insane.
Well, oh my God, I don't remember the character's name. Jason Douglas, the actor. Oh my God, I don't remember his character's name. I know he started. I'm a big fan of him because he's actually in a lot of anime and stuff. Because he's a VA, and he was in that show, and I had stopped watching at that point. So
yeah,
I'm sure I'll come back at some point at least to see that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like it eventually AMC will do a marathon to pad out their ratings. Just do like here's season this, like this. Just skip over season 2.
It's gonna be the Seinfeld or Cops of syndication.
You can show body parts getting exploded, but can't show a breast. America, gotta love it.
Yeah, but there's zombie body parts, you say?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, hey, there's gore and viscera and all this nastiness, but you can't show a breast. Don't do that, kids. It's very bad for you.
I don't want to have to explain that to my kid.
Yeah, it's like
forget he chopped somebody to death with a baseball bat and beat them. I can explain that, but
Well, hey, brother, if you want to share that the art, you should be able to share it. The option should be on that left-hand side.
Yeah, it looked like it was lagging. Let me try this again.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me know if it's.
I think I see it.
You see it?
Yep.
That's nice.
So that is, as you can tell, it's a little different than what we ended up with, but not much. And basically, he'd done stuff that was like basically really realistic and really really good looking for these characters. And then one day he was like, if we're gonna, maybe we should do a comic. And then he showed us this, and we're like, yeah, this is probably a better tone for the market. And then then we made our adjustments, and we're here where we are now. So that's how the ball started rolling.
Kind of reminds me of like a concept art for like Metal Slug.
Yeah, definitely Metal Slug influence. I will freely admit that. Yeah. So,
but hey, I like the art for Metal Slug, so that works for me.
It's still popular, so there you go.
I believe is it called Sand King, the Kira Toriyama book as well. I believe that's the one. It's the book he did after Dragon Ball Z wrapped up. After when Dragon Ball didn't turn into Dragon Ball Z. Well, Dragon Ball, I think it was Dragon Ball 3 the whole time, but they added on the Z moniker. But it was about a group. but that was through the desert, and I think one of them was a demon boy. I kind of got a vibe from that. Like, I kind of have a Kira Toriyama vibe, maybe a little bit of was it Chrono
Chrono Trigger?
Chrono Trigger, yeah, a little bit of Chrono Trigger vibe.
Yeah, a little bit of that. A little bit of that, like I don't know what I guess it was that like 1996 every JRPG where like the graphics were better on the consoles but they weren't quite good enough to do like full 3D. But they wanted to add detail, so everything was just kind of cute, small. Like Final Fantasy IX was kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Like Mode 7 or something to kind of give that semi 3D dimensional look for like Super Nintendo or something like that.
I think it was 6.
Six, I think that was, yeah.
Yeah, because 7 was when it jumped over to the PS1. It's like, yeah, because I remember actually looking through some old comics just the other day, and one of them had an ad for Final Fantasy 7. It's like,
oh man,
it said like the Final. You see the gun, the big old cannon, the Shinra cannon, and it says the cartridge games have just been given a cigarette and blindfold, basically saying we're gonna.
Oh my god!
And I was like, they're not advertising cigarettes, but
oh my god, that would never fly now.
Yeah, it's like like they're like, hey, we're gonna take them out back, line them up. But that was vital to the life, and it's brutal. I mean, this is
God.
But those old ads. I mean, like, dear God, it's like they pulled no punches. Like, hey, people take money back then. That's back before they really, you'd have that. You'd have Batman toy action figure, ad, and then you'd have like got milk. It's like, oh man, now nobody drinks milk anymore. It's all soy or almond.
Oh man. Well, people used to recognize back then advertisers, and I don't know what happened to this, but you always advertise to the demographic above where you're targeting. So they were going for teenagers, and they had a very adult style advertisement. That's what appeals to them. And if you want to get that 7 to 12 crowd, you advertise like you're advertising to teenagers. And now it's just cringe. Every time you see something that's demographic targeted, you're like, oh god. It's like that orange and smoking campaign or whatever.
Oh god!
Like, doesn't it just? I mean, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to be alive when I watch those. The amount of emotions, it's rage and shame, and I'm just like, maybe Western civilization should burn down.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you on that, because there's that one of them anti-smoking ads, and that actress that played Rose in that Last Jedi.
Oh, Rose Tico's.
Rose Tico, yeah. That's the only gig before Last Jedi. It was like one of these smoking ads with all these memes, like internet memes they used in the smoking
She's
ad.
I remember that commercial. I didn't know she was.
That's her. That's her. So it's like this.
Christ.
And it was like, we need her for the next Star Wars.
Have you seen Ethan Van Sciver's live stream on that? Like, he saw like it was like,
oh my god, he was
he's normally a chill guy. He was a savage. It was hilarious.
That was
it won't
brutal.
be as good as mine. It'll never be. I'm high on my own supply. I'm like, my friend Antonio, and he's looking at me like, who am I talking to? And almost a relief on his face when I started just calling it bullshit. I'm lying. I couldn't stand the movie. It sucked. It killed Star Wars. Star Wars was dead with Force Awakens, but this is like dug up the corpse. See, it's dead. I told you. It's like a Friday the 13th Part 7. Part 6, when Tommy Jarvis goes and digs up Jason's corpse just so he can burn it.
It's undead. As long as it has the curse of Disney, it's undead. It's going to keep coming back, and it's going to die all the time. But it keeps coming
and those
back.
toy sales are going to keep on dropping. Those Star Wars comic sales are going to keep dropping, and then they're going to say they're going to have J.J. Abrams come back again. And he's like, "Oh, y'all are scared by strong feminine leads, or y'all are sexist, or some dumb excuse to guilt people to go see the movies."
They're in their own bubble.
Haven't you heard? The future is female.
Oh my god!
And the Force, and everything.
Well, see, that's the thing about
and whoever made that bomber strategy in The Last Jedi, they make females look incredibly incompetent.
Well, and then also bombers in space, which If it was upper atmosphere, I could understand, but space, I'm like, okay, I could believe somebody using their mind and pulling and pushing things and shooting lightning out of their fingertips. I could believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But bombs drop. Well, it's gravity bombs. They have magnetic. They're magnetic bombs. I'm like, all right, okay. How about Leia floating through space? Yeah, like that right there. I was like, and they killed off Luke in favor of her. Tough call.
I used to be a massive Star Wars fan. I mean, that was the comics when I was a little kid. That was the ones I read, and I have these stacks of encyclopedias of the vehicles and the weapons and the people, and I ate that stuff up, and I'm just like, The Last Jedi. It's like I see the bomber scene, and I'm just like, did they read this stuff? Like, do they even care a third? Like, did they consult anybody in the Star Wars universe and be like, how would this be done? And then I think the killer of all that is the kicker, I should say, is the hyperspace thing where she hyperspaces and blows up a fleet. And anybody who knows anything about Star Wars knows that's not how hyperspace works, because if it was how it worked, you would just build a hyperdrive and it would be, basically a cruise missile. And you would just be able to just blow up anything by just pointing something with a hyperdrive at it.
Yeah, hyperdrive. How the hyperdrive works? It's like if you look at like one of those. It's like an ant farm. Where you have the ant farm. With the two panes of glass with the sand and everything. And it's like the ants that walk on the surface of it. That is normal space. That's where the starships, whether it be the TIE fighters and the X-wings and the capital ships and all that. That's normal space. When they go in hyperspace, it's like going into the ant tunnels. So they're to actually weaponize hyperspace is dumb, and that Rian Johnson. So when I was so angry at that, I had Looper. I really enjoyed Looper, and I had
It changes everything about the rules of Star Wars, and it's like I can check my brain at the door for the Force. And there's some little things I can let go by, but like that, it's like that changes everything. And
I could actually believe the midichlorians. I could actually believe that.
Oh man, don't bring this back.
And the reason is because they're microscopic organisms and everything like that. It's like maybe they call them midichlorians, maybe they call them quantum bonds. That's like the equivalent of things that like. Well, when you break things down to the quantum level, it's really spooky, because things don't make any sense when you get down to that level. And this is a world where it's space knights versus space wizards with pirates and all that. That's basically, if you take Star Wars, you're supposed to be able to, okay, a Jedi is a knight, or a Jedi is a wizard, and Han Solo is a pirate, and then Chewie is say he's from, he's like a Native American, or he's speaking a language nobody can understand. So you could
he's the tracker of the party, maybe
he's like say he's like some kind of he's a guy, he's a Moor or something, or he is like he's a Sikh, or he doesn't speak the same language as everybody else, but Han can speak with him as well. Han the pirate, and then Luke the farm boy. It's like he's like, and you could make a Star Wars film without having space and just setting like kind of medieval, not like kind of like in the same. Willow. They basically did that with Willow. That's basically what Willow is. It's Star Wars without the space elements, with that space skin. But these new movies, they have none of that. Hey, here's the fanboy character. Here's the fangirl character. There's nothing. There's no original. I can't like Finn. It's like, okay, he was conscripted into as a child soldier. I could get that. Like this, evil wizard came up and says, I need soldiers. Take children from the villages and train them from a young age. And he's like, no, I just started like a month ago. I'm like, what? So he's only been like,
God, don't give me just the absolute insanity of the New Order existing and the Republic somehow being called the Resistance, which is just, that's such a lazy way to shoehorn. I mean, that would be like calling them the Rebel Alliance still, or
that's all it is. It's like, so that people know who are the good people. They're resisting them. I'm like, wait, if what they should have just done is, hey, we won the war. Yes, the war that against the Empire as a whole. But guess what? The Empire, the governors, the Tarkins, and all the Moffs are still, the Tarkin-like guys, the Moffs and everything, the governors of all these systems are still around, and you just blew your load in the Battle of Endor. You destroyed the Death Star too. Good for you. You killed the Emperor. Darth Vader's gone. But all these other generals, the ones that actually did the fighting, and the ones who said, I don't have to take orders now, I'm my own boss. Yay me! And so it'd be like a Cold War.
Well,
like
they could have had, you know, like someone who basically a couple systems team together and they become almost like run by a warlord, and in the background there's the shadow of the Empire bureaucracy still, you know, like there's ways around if you really want that Empire aesthetic, and they needed that for the first one that was coming back. Like, oh, they got to find somebody similar to the Empire. They can do that and make it work. But in this case, it was just like a bunch of jagoffs who we have no idea how they got their money are now more powerful than all of the Republic systems, have built a weapon that's more powerful than the Death Star, without an explanation of like, oh, they discovered some sort of technology that lets them do it. Like that, it's such poor writing. It was not written by somebody who was a fan of Star Wars. It was written by I don't know. I don't know who wrote that, and that set them up to fail for the sequel. So it's like, what do I expect from The Last Jedi? You know, so.
Well, that right there, like I'm thinking like, how I would have done it better. It's like, okay, the problem with all movies, including comics as well, and another thing about storytelling, and maybe I'm alone in this. This is my problem. Escalation. It's same thing like wrestling. Back in the day, you'd have some stuff like, you know, before the Attitude Era for WWF, you would have, you know, like things would happen and like, oh, this big spot, oh, that great finish, this, and oh, he did something crazy. That's, you know, but it wouldn't happen every single time. You do that, you burn people out. Like I got burned out on it. I lasted like I stopped watching wrestling. Like
you can only watch your hero stop the giant blue laser in the sky. Exactly. How many times, you know?
So the way I would do is like a Star Wars, like, you know, okay, the Empire is gone, but that doesn't mean the universe is at peace. You know, the galaxy, you know, is the galaxy's at peace? No, it's not. It's still at war. We have some areas that are still fighting. Some of them are kind of settled back in. Tatooine's the same.
They should have just said it like if they really wanted to tell a fresh story in the Star Wars universe, set it 250 years in the future, right? Have the remnants of the old stuff. You can still have Luke's Force Ghost come back. And just, you know, and tell a fresh story about somebody on a planet while the Republic is in turmoil once again because of something.
Call it the New Republic, and you got basically kind of like an inverse of the Knights of the Old Republic game.
So, something like that. I mean, even to Lucas's credit in the first one, he does a really bad job of explaining the Trade Federation. But later on, you're like, oh, there's a confederacy of systems that are not happy, and here's all these systems, they're all over the damn place, and they're teaming up, and they're more robot. Like, you're like, okay, I see them being in conflict with the main universe. I understand, and they had a chance to tell a completely fresh story, and they just were like, nah, that's, you know, we're gonna bring back Han and all these other people. It's like, why? You're gonna just piss off the people who like those characters, and you're gonna people who don't or are new, they're not going to know. They don't care. So it's very silly.
I think it's just easier to not really create anything new. Now, granted, there were some things with. I like The Force Awakens. Wasn't a perfect movie, but there were some things in there. I was like, they could do some interesting things with this. All the things I was thinking they were going to do, they didn't. Even the things that should have been slam dunks. Like, how do you have, what's his name, Snoke? How do you have this guy to be like? I was like, and it was funny because like this is like the weirdest thing. I went to go with some friends to go to the movie, right? No one liked it except for one other person, but he was like real young. So it was like one of those things. Oh yeah, I love everything, the flashes and all that type of stuff, right? Cool movie, Star Wars. And I was like, well, it wasn't that bad. There were some cool things about it, I think. And it was like after like a couple days, like the next day, I was thinking about that movie. And I was like, this was stupid. This was stupid. The next day, I was thinking about it. Some more stuff. I was like, wait, why did they do like?
It gets worse on repeat viewings.
By the way, I was thinking about. By the time I got to the end of the week, I was like, I hate this movie. Like I called up my friend. I was like, bro, this movie was trash. I was like, I list all the reasons, and he was like, "Dang, bro, like I didn't like the movie. I didn't even think of that." I was like, "You're right." I was like, this movie is. And then I saw Larry's. I listened to Larry's podcast when he like went through the whole thing, and I was like, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. But how do you have Snoke supposed to like mind connect people and know everything that this guy, Kylo Ren, is supposed to know, but you can't see someone turning a lightsaber around on you? Like, how, dude? And how is Rey like after like a week know more about the Force than Luke ever did? Like, how does she's not even like Force? Like, she doesn't have any relatives. She's like the daughter of like of some people that just left her off. She's not important, but she's able to do all this stuff with the Force. That is so dumb and lazy.
And she was and she's that powerful. Yet she was just made aware of the Force's existence. It's I don't understand. She's the wonder character who's amazing at everything. Yet she's basically homeless in the middle of the desert, and it's like, why wouldn't somebody with that kind of talent be making their way up in society? Like Luke, you understand he's trapped. He doesn't know anything. His parents, his uncle deliberately obscures his father's past and the connection and whatnot. Like you've all these reasons why Luke is stuck where he's at, and you feel his frustration. With Rey, it's like, who is this person? Like,
and they set it up too. They set up the fact that he was actually going to submit his application to the academy. The guy was a pilot, and the fact that it's like saying, "Hey, I'm a pilot. I can do something. I get off this crap planet where I'm not, where I'm moisture farming."
He's got ambition. He's trying to leave the situation he's in, and Rey's just like, "Oh, I am simple person from old country. I want to stay here." It's like,
in the fangirl aspect, she's got the little dolls she's made, and she's got the like rogue helmet, the X-wing helmets, that kind of thing, the rebel helmets, and she's like, I've heard the tales of this and that, and it's just like squee fangirl squee, and that's like, this isn't Star Wars. This is like, I'm trying to picture like that as I've heard tales of knights and chivalry, like that kind of thing. And then somebody says, "No, kid, this isn't how it is." I'm like, I thought they were going to go for that. Like the whole, like it doesn't, like kind of the Force doesn't work that way thing. And I'm like, okay, like Han's going to open up the eyes, like, "Hey, kid, you want a job with me?" And it's like, and then I'm like, this is just, it was so. That's why I hate Force Awakens as well, and same thing with Rogue One. And I'm like, but they're with these characters, it's like, okay, how do we take out? Let's not have the planet-destroying weapon, this big Death. It's like, oh, we had Death Star, then the Death Star 2, and now we have a Death Star planet, the Starkiller base. And I heard Starkiller, and I'm hoping Starkiller from the Force Unleashed games comes out.
Yes, which I don't. Who knows if that's canon even anymore?
Well, it's not anymore. That's not going to be the. I was like, okay, that would be kind of a cool. That's what I was hoping it would happen in Rogue One. Starkiller comes up after.
Oh my god, yeah,
it would have been great. But it's like if somebody used Force powers to actually, like, like sorcerers would use their magics to, like, curse people. Imagine somebody who's like, say, some kind of like Snoke. This guy looks crippled and weak, but he's able to kill an entire planet, but just basically like concentrating enough and like making people's noses bleed and they fall down and die.
Make him an actual threat. He was never at any point a threat. And he was mysterious. They didn't know where he was, and they didn't know he was pulling the strings. But he wasn't actually a threat.
But then you find out that when Abrams and Kasdan wrote that thing, and Kathleen Kennedy's like, we know what we're doing. They didn't know nothing. Like when Rian Johnson's like, "Oh, they didn't have nothing for me to do, so I just started writing from scratch," kind of thing. It's like, so he wrote that. So let's just say he didn't write 100%. Let's say Kathleen Kennedy's like, "You got to put this, and this there," and it just made me feel so bad for. It's like, it kind of, when people say, like, "How can you like this? How can you like that?" It's like, how could you like Last Jedi? If you like Last Jedi, I don't have nothing to do with it.
It was shiny. And I think that's kind of all it had going for it.
And the worst part, there's a guy I follow on Twitter. I've known his work for a long time. His name's Chris Weston. Really cool dude. He's a British artist and everything. Mm-hmm. Beautiful work. He did work on he worked with Grant Morrison on the Invisibles. He was the artist on The Filth, which is a really messed up comic. It's really twisted. I love it. So I recommend if you like twisted comics. He also did The 12 with J. Michael Straczynski about these Golden Age heroes, like this Marvel book about these Golden Age heroes. They're doing construction in New York, find this underground lab with these heroes in stasis, and they wake up in the modern day. It's kind of like Captain America, but times 12. And it's like, oh my god, this world is crazy. It's like really, it's kind of over the top stuff. But I kind of really found out about his work and really came to respect him because J. Michael Straczynski is really bad at writing comics and actually putting his work out. So he was on not writing the book on a regular basis. Chris Weston was at a convention. Is like, if you don't write the damn book, I will. So he did a one shot and wrote and drew a one shot and actually had Marvel put it out. It's a really good story. It takes place in the 40s instead of modern day. Like the rest of for the most part, there's flashbacks in the modern day, but this is like all in the 1940s. It's really cool, and
cool.
So it kind of like kicked JMS in the pants to get him back doing the work on the book, which is that's the way I look at it. But he worked on Last Jedi, and it's kind of like I want to support the guy because he also worked on Book of Eli. He does poster he did concept work on that, and that the Canto Bright sequence, which made no sense to have that in the entire movie. Casino Planet Monte Carlo.
Yes.
The casino and concepts. He was a major part of that, and I felt so bad. It's like this would be great in any other movie. This ain't Star Wars. This is like 2000 AD. This doesn't belong in Star Wars. We have to free the animals. What about the slave children? What about the slave children, Rose? Huh? You don't care about the children. It's like fucking Kanye moment.
It's like they didn't coordinate or something. The narrative didn't coordinate. The characters don't arc. I mean, the only character who has an arc essentially is what, Poe?
Finn actually. Finn has the arc.
Finn arcs all that, yeah.
Well, he wakes up. He realizes like, hey, I'm not this hero. I want to get the hell out of here. Hey, I did my job the first time around, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna take out this thing, and I'm like, okay, that's gonna be cool. And then the whole you can't win by killing what you hate. You got to save what you love. And I'm like, you idiot.
Have you seen a Star Wars movie? You blow some shit up. That's how you get stuff done.
Exactly.
Come on.
It's one of those problems with these, that you can't blame a multiple series of writers. It's just, one credited writer director. But I
doubt that there's so many things that felt like they were designed by committee. I don't know. It wasn't quite insane enough for me to be like, this is one person who has no idea what they're doing.
I try not to be one of those conspiracy theories people, like as far as like politics and stuff goes. But with that sequence on the bridge where Poe's like, "Hey, Holdo, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, Laura Dern, purple. Hey, Laura Dern, what are you doing? What's the plan?" Well, you were demoted, so I won't tell you. Like that crap. It's like that was, and like if you noticed, it was Laura Dern and like 3 other women or whatever, and it's just like the man being like,
he was in every right to throw to take command to the mutiny, every right. There was such incompetence on the command. Not to mention that fight that happened beforehand, which was a disaster with the bombers and all that. Like who's right? Who's making the plans here? At a certain point, the soldiers walk away from their command. They kept pushing the fact there's barely anyone left, and we just have to have hope. And it's like, if I was, the last remnants of my military unit, and my, CO is like, we just have to have hope, and I'm not going to tell any of you guys what's actually going on. I'm going to probably just assume either they're trying to save themselves, or they've been working for the enemy the whole time, because these plans are a disaster.
Yeah, if they'd set up the fact that, like, say, Holdo or somebody said, or Lair, that we had, like...
also, well, that's another thing. Why is Leia not in charge?
Yeah,
General Organa... And, like, if she had shown that level of incompetence, she should have fired her on the spot. That would have given the men at least some confidence that, like, hey, I care that you're out there dying. I care that we're in a crappy situation.
Yeah, it was just really bad storytelling. If they had set up the thing like, hey, we got a spy on board, actually put a spy like element in there, and maybe make the spy Rose.
A reason why they're failing outside of incompetence.
Yeah, and like set it up like, oh, the fangirl turns out to be the spy or whatever, something like that. And the fangirl.
Yeah, and you can even have her fall in love with Finn and turn at the end. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with that.
I'd kill her off though. I hate the character so much. I'd just kill her off.
Well, I think had they had the foresight to do something clever like that with the character and written an actual character and not just a placeholder for
kind of like a Darth Vader, kind of like a Darth Vader face turn, like where he was, where it's like he's watching watching his son being electrocuted, looks at the Emperor, watches his son electrocuted, and he's like, "Screw this," and then throws him in there. Not with the no, I'm talking the original unspecial edition thing. Which, oh god, that's horrible. That's another thing. The whole, because of Lucas getting a divorce from his wife, allegedly this is the reason. Like, he got divorced from his wife, and his wife is like, "All right, I want." She got, like, because that's the thing in California. Like, if you're married to someone and if they're working on something, you can actually have if your lawyer's good enough, and I'm pretty sure hers was, because like most divorce attorneys are in California, it seems like they're ravenous sharks. They're like megalodons. Marsha Lucas, who actually edited all 3 of the films, and she was and kind of story edited and helped out with some stuff. So it's like, if you're with somebody while they make a lot of money, you can actually say, well, I was, so the court possibly awarded her part ownership of the original movies, but if you alter them to a certain extent, you don't have to, so he didn't have to pay her anymore off that's why you'll not be ever released again, that kind of thing. And
that makes sense, but
it's a damn shame.
Yeah,
that's kind of like I want to get me a VHS, get the VHS copies or Laserdisc.
Well, we should have known something was up when he decided to edit that Han wasn't going to shoot first anymore, because that completely changes Han's character's context. Yeah, it's that's a major. That's not just we added the scene with Jabba the Hutt and the CGI is terrible. Like, that whole scene's written. I believe that's Han. That makes sense, right? It's not a good scene. They probably shouldn't have added it, but whatever, But like, when they start doing stuff like that, it's like, you either fundamentally don't understand it or you're embarrassed by it, and now you want to change it.
That's when people say art's never finished, it's only abandoned. I'm like, screw that. I've seen how that ends up with George Lucas.
So some of the things they did, like in the what do they call the 97 special edition, when they re-enhanced the audio with THX, when they fixed the puppets and they fixed some of the CGI effects, like in Empire Strikes Back, the wampum part and the part on the Tauntauns, and like that was all like claymation.
That wasn't too bad. That wasn't
the original. The original made it look dated, and then when they fixed it, it was like, oh, that's refreshing, But they didn't change any of the narrative intent. They didn't clutter the screen with shit like they did in the original, where it was like dewbacks and all this other shit walking in the way.
Oh, but that was cool. Like when they come in, like they fixed the shadow underneath the sand speeder. When the TX, whatever it was called, the one that they sell.
Yeah, the orange one.
Yeah, didn't add the big old brontosaurus looking thing, all the extra stuff in the background, which is just pointless. They didn't. And the one that gets me, and it hurts me, because I actually bought a while back. You can buy it on Amazon. I believe you could buy it a CD too. But they released the original unaltered soundtracks for Star Wars: New Hope, Empire, and Jedi.
I actually have those.
I have them as well, and I love Lapty Neck because it's funky. It's 70s like, but it got that little 70s 80s like it feels like a European disco vibe, like when disco as in like the club and not necessarily like disco balls.
Yeah, it felt like a shady Russian club or something.
Exactly, and like it fit well, and not that Jedi rocks and that horrible John Williams bland, where they do the "We's a free," that was bad. Like that, there's no and toppling over stuff, but Yub Nub, I loved it as a kid. I love it today. I don't care if people are like, "Oh, it's just dumb." I love it.
That one of the changes in that ending, the song switch out, that kind of shrugged my shoulders. But you're right with Jedi Rocks though, because not only that, do you remember the version they released in theaters, and it didn't have Jedi Rocks. It had the original song, which is whatever the hell you said it was called.
Lefty Neck.
And what they did is they fixed the puppet so that it didn't have this like stiff thing with the strings, and so it just was a little more fluid. So they basically added CG to the puppet, and it no longer looked like a puppet. It looked like kind of a creature, and the song was the same, and it was great. But then when they released. Well, when they released it on DVD and like the re-release on VHS and whatnot, that's when they introduced Jedi Rocks, and that just pissed me off beyond belief, because it was like you went from fixing something that didn't look good to applying the technology to make it look a little better while keeping the scene the same, to CGIing in Boba Fett and these two other chicks who look out of place, and this weird CGI rat guy with a song that was obnoxious, like out of something out of a Disney movie. I don't know. Like whose idea was that? You know, that's like a thing you put on the special features, not
as a joke. As a joke.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we did this thing. We thought about remixing the scene, and look, we filmed more Boba Fett, and look what we did. It looks like it's in the chamber. Okay, cool, but like, why would you? That's not Jabba's club. Like, like Jabba's not going to have like show tunes and little hairy guys and like this cheesy music. He's going to have, he should have this seedy club,
playing some kind of funky disc, some funky, maybe not even, it wasn't pop. It was more like that funky.
It was funk.
It's like that kind of Giorgio Moroder vibe to it as well. It's like that kind of deal. It's like, if you're speaking of Star Wars, there's one upside about the Star Wars movies coming out on somewhat a yearly basis at this point. Now we got another one coming up in May. That Solo movie. I was like, oh my god,
that looks so bad.
A movie so nice they had to film it twice.
Yeah, they did a Rogue One too, and we don't even know how many reshoots they've had to do for the other two. So
I have a feeling with this next one, it's like if they'd have just said, okay, we're doing new Star Wars, and then just do like Knights of the Old Republic or something, Knights of the New Republic or whatever, call it whatever. Like, that would have been fine. Mm-hmm. But there was these new Star Wars movies coming out. There was a sale a while back, and I picked it up. It was the Star Wars comics, like the Legends, which are the out of continuity stories that of
mm-hmm.
course. You got Tag and Bink, which is really fun. Apparently, Tag and Bink are going to show up in Solo, which just makes me hurt. And
oh god.
Yeah, I feel real bad about that. But with the comics, there was one of them. It was what if the trench run failed? It was basically what if Star Wars. It's like the torpedoes go, but they don't go down the tunnel, but they don't blow up.
Gotcha. And so Yavin destroyed, and the rebels basically don't get their first battle with victory.
It's destroyed, but what happened is it didn't blow up the core. It didn't blow it up, but blew up something. So the power levels were not 100%, and in doing so, it only destroyed part of the base. So Vader comes down, grabs Leia and C-3PO, takes them back, converts Leia to the dark side, has her tap into her force powers, while Luke and his X-Wing and Han and Chewie and R2, they go, like, Obi-Wan's ghost comes to him, go to Dagobah. Luke goes to Dagobah, trains for a very, very, very long time. Eventually, he when he goes into the cave, he doesn't go in, he doesn't start hacking and slashing, he goes in without any weapons, confronts himself, comes out a better person, then goes to Coruscant. Outside Coruscant's the entire naval fleet with Death Star, and it's like, we're going to protect Coruscant, and like, we're basically the rebellion's over. The rebellion's basically over. It's kind of a celebration thing. It's like the Ewok celebration, except for the Empire. So it's like Nazi Germany, and Yoda comes along with Han. So Han, Yoda, Chewie, and Han, Yoda, and Chewie go in the Millennium Falcon and end up going to the Death Star. And Yoda gets on the Death Star, confronts Grand Moff Tarkin, and beats Grand Moff Tarkin. Yoda takes the Death Star because Yoda knows he's old and he's dying, his time's up, and crashes the Death Star into Coruscant, into the capital city.
Oh my god.
And Luke battles Leia, and C-3PO gets reprogrammed by Vader to be
what
evil.
If Yoda murdered 4 billion people?
Well, they weren't. No. So it's like, but they were murdering younglings. It's like, hey, that's for my younglings.
Remember that? It's the younglings.
But but C-3PO does a heel turn. He pulls a gun on Luke because he's like an evil C-3PO.
Oh my god!
This comic is great. It's the first one
that's
out
fantastic.
of them. But the other one is the Star War, which is the original screenplay, but illustrated by Mike Mayhew and written by Jake.
I had heard of that. Yes,
it is actually, this is the movie I wish the new series of movies was. It is the Wookiees are basically the Wookiee planet. Not Luke. Oh, I think it was actually called Anakin in the story, or it's a Star Killer. Star Killer is ends up training the Wookiees to pilot X-wings, and it's like, and the way you look at it, it's like, okay, so basically Native Americans riding horses in the battle, against the evil, and then
all right,
it's equivalent of that, I guess you would say. So it's like,
so the Wookiees are a little more primitive, and he shows up and he's like, we're gonna fight these assholes.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe they were technologically minded at one time, but they're like kind of a hippie commune. Like, it's like that Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It's like, I'm a man of peace. I'm done killing. I want to raise a family. That's it, Tim. They got your family.
Oh my God, not Action Tim or whatever the hell.
Tim Howitzer, I think it was called, or whatever.
Well, they carried those radio ads into San Andreas too.
Like, Jack Howitzer, I think it was, because it's like Jack Howitzer starring in whatever.
You got your wife, but I'm not married. You are now
to America. Oh, I love that stuff. It's like, but the militaristic stuff, which reminds me of Column, which Kickstarter April 3rd, which you'll, because you can follow proper link. You can follow Raw Blink Prod PROD on Twitter. Of course, Tim Morris USA at Twitter. Braylon Mega Gears X on Twitter as well, to keep in touch with the Kickstarter when the Kickstarter goes live. I'll be retweeting that for sure.
I appreciate that.
Same.
And it's good to see, like, to have somebody that has passion. Like I said earlier, the passion to work is the most important thing. If you don't believe in it, if you're not like, well, I kind of hope things go well, Nate, like, this is going to happen, damn it, we're going to do this. It's like these people that go on mopey, it's like, that's the problem. I don't know, like, Braylon, have you ever been to a comic convention?
No, I've been meaning to. But then every time I hear y'all guys talk about it, you always bring up BO, and
BO is bad. BO is real bad.
And like getting ripped off for like comic book artists that don't show up. So I'm like, should I waste my time?
If you're going first time, I would say avoid the ones that are by Wizard World. Because if I've never went to a con where I felt like I completely wasted my time, except for ones that were Wizard World ones, because you pay a crap ton to get in. You may or may not even see the people, and if you do see the people, if you want something signed, it might be $60, and it's just a lot of waiting in lines, and the venues are just boring. You go there, and it doesn't feel like it's for the fans. It feels like it's a corporate exercise.
Well, it is. Well, it's like have you been at conventions, right, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, so like other than Wizard World, I mean, like as far as like
I've actually been to a lot of anime cons. Actually, that's mostly
okay. Well, that's still convention, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with a personality, like with people with personality, you go by somebody's table, and you see some people a little too hyper. It's like the dog and the puppy in the window. They're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And like you walk by, you're just looking, like maybe you're looking for the right table, but it's like this kind of. You're not the puppy in the window looking for somebody to pick you up so you don't end up in the chamber. It's like, you didn't sell. Well, your body parts will.
Hey, you're going in the luggage compartment or whatever.
Oh no. Yes, Dave. I have read Tag and Bink, and Tag and Bink's really great, and that's why I'm down. That's why I have a problem with the solo. If they use them and abuse them. I'd like to see a Forrest Gump style Tag and Bink film, which would have been amazing. Like, insert Tag and Bink within all Star Wars movies, and maybe even mention like maybe one of them gets injected with drugs, and so show original footage of like the unaltered stuff. It's like, wait a second, I thought he shot first.
You just see entire other movies, but from their perspective. That's.
But that would be kind of funny how to have that happen. But with, that passion, and at the conventions, oh my God, you get some of them. You actually have, let's say, Charisma Vacuum, or it's like the epitome of the grunge era. It's like. they're the walking Seattle, like a rain clouds over their head all the time. It's gray and gloomy. You go by their table. So you hope to do maybe like some shows once you got the books printed up and everything. And
Yeah, I mean, if we print enough, the goal will particularly hit East Coast, and if we can go out further, we absolutely will. Either anime cons or comic conventions, and basically be able to sell things and sign stuff, and it's a business, so we got to get the product in front of people.
I'll just give you a heads up on some of that. Like there's certain conventions, the one I would avoid, and like mainly because of the clientele and the smell, location, cost, and like benefit wise. Small Press Expo in Bethesda, I would not recommend that one.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem is like unless your book is basically like like I said, or joked around about the whole transsexual hooker in Seattle, that kind of book, you're not going to fly there. Or unless you have dead smell receptors, if your nasal cavity, it's the smell in there from the BO, patchouli, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely, there's no way around it. The humidity in the air, because Maryland, you're a Pennsylvania guy.
I know Maryland. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you know the whole deal with the whole, like, it's basically a swamp. It's Maryland and Northern Virginia, swampy areas, and that swampy area, that humid air can last all the way up October, sometimes November. And it does not add good combination when you have doors open. Like if the AC's on, it ain't working, or it ain't no dehumidifier. So the body stank, the body heat, and it's packed. Like to get through the aisles, and then actually like maybe make a sale, like pick up a book. Don't even have a chance. Like I was at a table, I waited for like 5 minutes just to get enough room to get close to it. And I was interested in buying the book, and I'm like, like waving, like had the book in my hand, my right hand. I'm like waving it back and forth, looking at the guy, speaking ain't going to do no good because the murmur, the chatter, and stuff. Mm-hmm. People have like almost like the point they're almost close to kissing to actually hear each other.
Yeah,
it was just that low murmur, but it was so low it just like drones everything out. It was not fun. Heroes Con's good. As far as conventions for comics go, it's in Charlotte. I've heard Greenville, South Carolina is good. The Greenville Comic Con, South Carolina Comic Con in Greenville. There's probably some up your way as well. And it's like
we're kind of trying to we have to split the difference between comic and anime manga, and it seems like there's not a lot of places that converges. Which kind of surprised me a little bit. So we have to kind of figure out what the balance is, because all of our voice actors are anime actors. Most of them are, they've all worked at Funimation. Not all of them are there now, but that's kind of where there's a draw there. And I know if you go to a comic convention, you're like, oh, we have a XYZ, and people just they have no idea who these people are.
So who's the voice actors you got?
It is on the website for those people who want to look in case I say something wrong here. Lieutenant Hunter is Colleen Clinkenbeard.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what she's most known for. Luffy in One Piece. That's probably the biggest one in terms of what she's known for. And she's in a ton of things. So I don't think I could even start the list. Millie is Lucy Christian, who's actually, it's funny, also in One Piece. She plays Nami in One Piece. And she's in a bazillion different things. Kara is Jeremy Lee, who, even though Kara is super grumpy and nasty at times, Jeremy is kind of the opposite in real life. She's really, really nice. But she used to be in Texas. She did a lot of Funimation stuff. She was Lucy in Fairy Tail. That's probably what, like, in terms of like most people have seen her in. Okay. But now she's in LA, so she was Asuna in Sword Art Online. She was Sailor, I think, Venus in Sailor Moon, the new one. She's in an absolute ton of things now. And then Lexi is Alexis Tipton, who's still in Texas, and she does directing now, and she's in a ton of stuff. I'm trying to think what she's probably most known for. A lot of people know her from Rosario Vampire. She was a Mocha. Oh, actually, Colleen was the other one. So if you've seen that show, you know what that's about. Trying to think. She's in a ton of random stuff. And then the guys, It's Joel McDonald is Hatch, the guy with the balaclava on with the helmet, and Austin Tyndall is Jack, and they're again both Funimation veterans, and we really, I mean, it obviously it cost money, but we wanted to make sure it didn't sound like a bunch of amateurs with like a webcam recording something. So it's professionally done.
Yeah, I've noticed that one thing. You have a lot of these people that actually go and if you see some of their Twitter bios, like, okay, check just randos. I'm talking, usually some of them have like less than like 300 followers, 200 followers, stuff like that. Like they've probably not been around long. They don't have much interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like voice actor, and I'm like, I think that's if you just because you talk it to YouTube does not make you a voice actor.
There's a whole range of talent in the because the voice acting industry is very, very difficult to get into professionally. But what it's not difficult to do is to get into to find somebody who's desperate to need to find somebody for a project for you to voice for free. So some people, they end up voicing a lot of small projects, and they're not really professional actors, but they're in a lot of stuff. Now, some of those people are fantastic. Some of those people are not so good. And I have no problem where if basically somebody can't afford to hire professionals to get done what they can get done, because sometimes the results are amazing. I mean, you've seen what Team 4-Star did. Those weren't professionals. They hired, at least to start with, and they got some amazing people. And a lot of that had to do with the directing and the writing. But in our case, we did splurge, for lack of a better word. We budgeted. We found out what it would cost, and we said, all right, well, if we're going to have the audio component, let's make it for real. So we hired the best people we could. And we think we got the best people out there, honestly. It's not really worth getting. I don't see, especially for voiceover, I don't see the benefit for paying somebody who's like also a TV main actor who might be like really, really expensive in terms of like like somebody who's like a famous, like a celebrity. Mm-hmm. Like video games do this all the time. They hire some random celebrity to voice some critical character.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Well, Kiefer Sutherland's a good example. I love Kiefer Sutherland. What is the benefit they got for hiring Kiefer Sutherland over David Hayter?
Just the name.
I think
the name.
He likes. Well, for me, I think Kojima is kind of a, pardon my French, a starfucker, and he's like. I have a big actor. I have a big actor now. It's like David Hayter. Who I don't like because apparently they tried to get rid of David Hayter back in for Snake Eater. They tried to get rid of him there. It's like to get somebody else in like a big. They wanted a bigger name. They couldn't get nobody, and so like the way they treated David Hayter, it's like I'm like, damn, the guy sounds like such a nice guy. I've never met him. But
he's fine. He's the voice of Snake. I feel like if he really had a problem with the performance, that's kind of on the director at that point. We know David Hayter can act.
I think it's just like I said. It's like he wanted a name, and like Kiefer Sutherland, 24, Lost Boys, Dark City, that kind of thing. It's like, but you have stand-up people, and it's like you're going big or go home with this project.
Well, I guess my point is like. I'm way more excited to hear that the people we have on the project, like Lucy and Alexis and Colleen, when I hear they're on something, that to me is like, oh, cool, somebody's doing something that I know I like their stuff. That's not like, oh, here's this ex-celebrity random TV actor. Like, oh, Kiefer Sutherland's doing a voice for a thing. I'm like, I don't care that much. Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's not the crowd I'm in. But I don't see the benefit. I think the people we have are better. I mean, because you hear like Disney movies and crap, and they get like random celebrities instead of actual voiceover people, and sometimes the performance just isn't there. It's just there so it sounds like this celebrity,
So you're telling me that Richard Grieco wouldn't just get you all hot and bothered, just like, oh my God, Richard Grieco's working on this.
I just don't care. I don't know. I don't care.
Nobody cares about Richard Grieco. But
I don't know why they do that with like kids movies too, because it's like the kids don't know who these people are. Like who are you selling to?
I think that's how Eddie Murphy made a lot of money, though, just doing the Donkey, in the Shrek movies. It's like it is a paycheck. Like some people, when they actually. Like that's the problem with the. I have an issue with the Disney Studio Ghibli films when they brought those over and they get these who gives a crap voice actors. It's like even I hate Mononoke. not just because of the voice acting, but I don't like the story at all. It's like one of those, we get it. It's a story about the environment and like saving the environment, this and that. At least when they did it in Nausicaa, where it was giant. Oh yeah, before the world ended, we're in a post-apocalyptic world where we have these little weird fox critters, and underneath the desert sands are giant warriors. They're 300 foot tall, basically Avas from Evangelion. It's like basically the world's almost a sequel to Evangelion, even though it came out 20 years prior. And it's like, yes, yes, yes. And that great music and the great action and just everything, like the smooth animation. But, the voice acting in that, I didn't mind because you actually had good actors. I like Alison Lohman. You had Patrick Stewart. Like you had.
Yeah, I see. I'm crapping on TV actors, but I don't mean that in general. Some of them are excellent.
Well, Armitage 3 Polymatrix had very bad voice acting, but you had Kiefer Sutherland and Elizabeth Berkley, hot off of Showgirls. Elizabeth Berkley off of Showgirls, playing Armitage, voicing Armitage, and I feel it's rough.
I don't know.
Armitage is one of those animes you should only watch subtitled, bro.
That's how I am with Ghost in the Shell, the original Ghost in the Shell, except for Richard Epcar, Bato. It's mainly the voice actors. It ain't Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Because she did Ghost Standalone Complex and Second Gig, but the voice actors from the original, it's like she's talking through a speech to text option. I am Major Motoko Kusana. It's like, oh my god, this is like
that's the director or voice director was like, oh, this person's a cyborg. They must not have a personality. Let me just go. It's like, oh god.
Though the downside is with the English subtitles, they remove the best line in the movie. You don't remember your own name, dickhead. Which is and yeah, you had to go get my big gun. And hey, no Ghost in the Shell, no Matrix, because the Wachowskis, they're a ball of creativity. They never take anything from something else.
What they say Ghost in the Shell take stuff from Blade Runner, and Blade Runner, or take stuff from a French comic, which took stuff from Blade Runner, and you can always track stuff back. I'm sure somebody's going to say column is, oh, well, it's just like this, and I'm going to be like either unaware of it, or I'll be like, oh, well, I guess it is.
I think the difference is I don't think there's going to be a page or panel or multiple segments where it's the fight where Motoko in her self-camouflage versus the guy with the MAC-10 in the flooded courtyard. And hey, that's very similar to the courtyard sequence from Matrix Reloaded. Huh. I wonder why that is. It's just stuff like that. But with Column, it seems like you got you have the great plan of action just to get the book printed. You're not trying to pull wool over somebody's eyes. Like, well, if you help us, we'll get the art done. And you actually have something to show with the preview at Comixcentral.
That's why I released the preview, so you can see that yes, that this is a thing that exists. I'm not just saying that. I'm not saying here, please give me money so I can create something from thin air. It's here. It's a physical thing.
And you also have you got you have the art there to show. Even if you haven't looked at the comic yet, you can look at the art. Hey, it looks like something for you. Great. You reached on Twitter. You got both you got the Kickstarter account going on. You got your personal account. You got all that tied up. Hopefully be doing more podcasts soon.
I wish we could put the Kickstarter page live, but you can't until you actually launch.
That's what's so weird about it. I was looking for the links. I was like, man, why can't I find the links? And I'm like, oh, that's right, because like I said, I very rarely do pledge to Kickstarter projects. When I do, it's like I try to make it choose wisely. He chose poorly. I don't want to turn into a pile of dust.
Because you're kind of just holding your breath, or you better. It's like gambling. You better not need that money or be depending on the thing sometimes, because you might not get the product.
I learned the lesson hard way. And the lessons I learned, it was over $100 for a Kickstarter, and it was like one of these like, well, that's a lot of regret. Well, that's a couple of dinners out, I looked at it that way. I was like, that's like 3 dinners out. Like it was like one of these kind of things. It was
that's a top tier column option. Come on, man.
it was well, it was to get some like there was part of getting the cover art for the book, and I was like, oh, it's fully painted and everything, and things that happened. There was a disagreement between me and the person running the Kickstarter, and so I still got the art, and I was like, I was like, hey, I got in touch with somebody. Do you want this art? Well, yeah. You don't want it? So if you don't take it, I'm just going to tear it up, throw it in the trash right now.
Oh, jeez.
You paid so much for it. I says, yeah, I can't stand the person. I'd rather see it destroyed or in somebody else's hands. Make my choice for me.
My goal's not to piss you off that much.
Oh no! It's like no. It's like well, this was something. It was like kind of one time thing. It was like shit happens, as it were. But it's just funny. It's like I don't think that'd be a problem because I don't go that high on Kickstarters that much anymore. It's like I learned my lessons. Like I have a limit. It's like going to Vegas and then getting broken and walking out with like just the moths coming out of your pockets. No shoes. They take your shoes from you.
Man, they take your shoes. They take everything, bro.
they like it's like Debo or something. Like Debo shows up, he tucking everything in, hiding it.
Oh god.
But yeah, it's
I can I want to say I can guarantee that, but I'm hoping that I can. Well, no, I say I can guarantee that won't happen. Well, but what I'm saying is I hope I can prove to people that this is a very, very safe Kickstarter. You will get what you're paying for, and there's not really anything you need to depend on.
Well, I think that's one thing we've learned from this evening, that the fact that everything's done, we just got to get it to print. We got to get these issues out there, get this volume 1 out there, so you can go ahead and get started on volume 2, get some things going, get the ball rolling, get the word out there. And I think this has been very productive, even though we kind of diverged into like an hour of Star Wars talk. It's very fun. It's funny. The first experience I had with writing is I wrote a really gigantic ass Star Wars story, and I started it in middle school. And I mean, it's a mess now, but that's kind of what got me into storytelling. So there you go. Please don't let it be like Luke and Leia have a baby,
No.
The superpower, the Jedi Force empowered, inbred
hillbilly emo teen.
Angsty emo hillbilly inbred. He's got one line more than the other. Hey, maybe that's Snoke.
Oh man!
It's like he had progeria. He's like Luke and Leia's, like Luke. Like the Jedi mind trick. Like this is not your child. This is not my child. You never had a child. You never had a child. And then go marry Han. That's why Luke left. He's like, oh man, I banged my sister and I knew about it the whole time.
Oh god.
Snoke is, like you just killed your uncle.
I guess the Force really wasn't that strong with him.
Oh no. So I think that's a way to close everything up. Thank you so much, Tim, for coming on.
I appreciate it, and I'll come on again whenever you want.
Oh, you got it. You got it. Best of luck to you on the Kickstarter. Like I said, we'll be spreading that word come April 3rd, getting the word out there. You warriors, send the word. But and thank you, Braylon, for coming on. And I thought
yes.
And making time and actually making the connection. You're actually the one.
He's the intermediate
matchmaker.
Matchmaker, guys. I like to be a part of it.
And I know you're getting tired. It's like, oh, go for an hour. I should have said not. I should have said nothing. I should have said no time limit. I should have. I try to get you wrapped
from
up.
now until April 3rd. Long stream. That's.
Oh no! Well, hey, don't tempt me, man. Don't tempt me.
Larry will go for a 7-hour stream. Okay, it's happened like a couple times. Don't tempt me, please.
Hey, like Rocky, I can go the distance. Rising up. Back in, and that's another thing. No Rocky, no great Transformers, because that's where the Vince DiCola, who did Rocky 4, he did the music for Transformers, the movie, and then the Touch. No Rocky, no starring Sylvester Stallone. I mean, as far as a star goes, that means no Cobra, and the Touch was written for Cobra. Which I don't know most people at Stan Bush.
I guess it was.
And so, and you know, No Dare to Be Stupid, which I think a lot of people, like young kids, got turned on to Weird Al from that. It's either that or Gangsta Amish Paradise. Um, it's either Dare to Be Stupid or Amish Paradise. It seems fat as well, but you know, that's about it. But well, I better stop it there before we go too long. So
I was gonna say, don't get me a Weird Al. That's gonna be another hour and a half.
Oh no, no Weird Al. Not tonight for the Weird Al stream. But thank you so much for those who joined us. I appreciate it. And to Braylon, my co-host, and to Tim, the guest, we wish you all a wonderful and happy Wednesday. See you next time, folks.
See you later.
See ya.